John Cornyn exposed Biden's cover-up for what it was. Check it out.
As we now know, there was a conspiracy to hide the president's true condition by his family, by his staff, by the media.
During a Senate hearing, the congressman detailed why the second half of the Biden presidency wasn't just disastrous, but dangerous for the nation, vowing accountability and making it clear the excuses are over.
It's absolutely imperative that Congress grapple with these difficult questions, no matter how much our Democratic colleagues would like to simply sweep it under the rug.
That's why today we're covering it all, because we're not here to follow parties blindly. We're here for common sense. So, if you're an independent thinker, hit that subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
Last June, the American public saw with their own eyes what many knew to be true, but would not dare to admit publicly. Our sitting commander-in-chief was suffering from severe cognitive decline, as evident by this video, which I will now show.
For what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare, wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate.
Now, I'm sure you all remember how disastrous Biden's performance was during that debate. Yet, at the time, major outlets like NBC and NPR rushed to assure everyone that the race was unchanged. Less than a month later, Biden was forced out by his own party. That's when Pandora's box opened. Suddenly, saying he was too old became the new mainstream talking point, even though half the country had been saying it for years. The only logical explanation here is that the former president didn't age just a week before the debate, meaning his decline was known, ignored, and covered up until it was impossible to deny anymore. Which is the point Cornyn expanded on, saying this.
As we now know, there was a conspiracy to hide the president's true condition by his family, by his staff, by the media, and many elected officials. Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, who co-authored a book entitled Original Sin, that book amounted to a mea culpa by the mainstream media, but they summed up the problem when they wrote this. Quote, what the world saw at Joe Biden's one and only 2024 debate was not an anomaly. It was not a cold. It was not someone who was under or over prepared. It was not someone who was just a little tired. It was the natural result of an 81-year-old man whose capabilities had been diminishing for years.
Although Jake Tapper would like us to believe he's being impartial by writing a book on Biden's mental decline and the cover-up around it, he played a role in that very operation. That being said, the book does appear to contain nuggets of truth, and you can tell by the reactions it stirred up. Biden himself brushed it off, saying, quote, you can see that I'm mentally incompetent, and I can't walk, and I can't beat the hell out of both of them. While referring to the authors, his granddaughter, Hunter's daughter, dismissed it as, quote, political fairy smut for the permanent professional chattering class. Even The View had a meltdown over it.
Biden, his family, and his team let their self-interest and their fear of another Trump term justify an attempt to put an at times addled old man in the Oval Office for 4 more years. So make no mistake about it, this was a constitutional crisis, bigger than President Biden, bigger than any single election, and one that cannot be absolved by the collective apology of the press and an election where the president's party lost. Current events, such as we are experiencing today in the Middle East, are a prime example of why we need a president with his full cognitive abilities. making important decisions involving war and peace.
Exactly. When it comes to major geopolitical events, the president should be in the Situation Room, fully briefed and ready to lead. But reports surfaced that Biden told Democrat governors he needed more sleep and wouldn't schedule events past 8 p.m. If that's true, who is in charge when threats arise late at night? His wife? His son? Or the aides who many allege were already running the country? That's why this issue can't be brushed aside. It needs answers, and quickly. On top of that, those who participated in covering up Biden's condition while holding government positions must face accountability. Because without consequences, what's stopping the same situation from happening again down the line? From there, Cornyn laid out all the possible routes Congress could take to uncover what actually happened. But before we play that, we have a quick message for you. Did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often? Our increasing longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice. If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Visit freedomforgold.com. That's freedomforgold.com or text freedom to 35052 today. Now, back to the video.
We should know, but we don't yet know, precisely what should happen when a president is unable to perform his or her constitutional duties. And that's the purpose of today's hearing. There are many unanswered questions from this scandal, questions that the authors of Original Sin failed to address in their book, questions that are foundational to the proper functioning of our government. We will address those here and shine a light on exactly what went on in the White House during the Biden presidency. We simply cannot ignore what transpired because President Biden is no longer in office. With a compromised president, our government's very legitimacy and capacity to function was undermined.
Going back to the claims that aides were running the show behind the scenes, Tapper's book dubbed them the Politburo. According to him, this inner circle included longtime Biden advisors, namely Mike Donilon, Steve Ricchetti, and Bruce Reed. In addition to family members, quote, such as First Lady Jill Biden and his son Hunter. One common thing among these people is the fact that none of them were elected by Americans to serve in the role of president. This not only undermines Biden's credibility, but the very foundation of our system.
The American people paid a price, from President Biden's handling of the border crisis to the disastrous events we saw unfold in Afghanistan. It's absolutely imperative that Congress grapple with these difficult questions, no matter how much our Democratic colleagues would like to simply sweep it under the rug. We need to know who was in charge during the last months of the Biden administration. Was it his wife, his chief of staff, nameless others? None of these people were elected by the American people, nor were they authorized by the Constitution and laws of the United States to carry out the duties of the President of the United States.
That's what it all boils down to. As Cornyn pointed out, many on the left are brushing it off, saying Biden's term is over, so why dig into it now? But accountability still matters. Another point is, Congress needs to work on better safeguards, because although the 25th Amendment includes provisions for situations like Biden's, it was never used. And the reason was purely partisan. Simply put, without real consequences and reforms, nothing stops this from happening again. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, keep thinking.